Hey, good morning, everyone. It's 8:30. We'll call this meeting to order and we'll start with the roll call, please.
Steve Carrianen.
Here.
Randy Newman.
Here.
Kay Wilson. Jim Evans. You have a quorum.
Okay, next we will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Certification of compliance with the open meetings law.
This meeting was noticed to the media and the public as required by Section 19.84 of Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. The meeting agenda is set. At this time, we will go to public comments where members of the public will be given the opportunity to address the committee. Please adhere to the following. Keep your comments limited to 3 minutes or less. Comments should be directed to the committee as a whole and not directed to individual committee members. And committee members cannot respond to your comments during this time. If you want to speak, please fill out a comment sheet and pass it to the clerk. We have Don Rotek wishing to speak first.
Good morning. I'm Don Rotek. I'm with the Sawyer County Snowmobile and ATV Alliance. We used to be on the agenda here before, but I quit coming to it, and one of our other members of our committee was supposed to be coming to the meetings there, and we've had a little bit of change in the alliance. So hopefully I'm not going to be the one all the time here. We're going to have somebody else here, but give the motorized recreation report for snowmobile and ATV stuff going on. We finally have snow out here. Good snowmobiling here in Sawyer County. The groomers have been out grooming all the trails and that. I know it's been a bad beginning year this year. Last year was absolutely terrible with no snow at all. This year we do have some snow. I was just at the Governor's Snowmobile Council meeting here last week over in St. Germain, and we were talking about this on the state level here, the lack of snow. With that, there's less snowmobiles that are registered in the state of Wisconsin, and which creates a funding problem for us because the snowmobile trails, if you're not familiar with it here in Sawyer County, are funded through the DNR, through the ATV and snowmobile money that registration and the gas tax bring in for them and the trail passes. With the shortage of machines not being registered or buying trail passes, it's a shortage of money that goes into that account. Sawyer County gets so much a mile for all the funded trails we have out here. Plus we apply for many grants here for rehab on the trails for a lot of the trail work that gets done. So we'll see what happens this year. Hopefully we get enough money in there, but there's shortfalls on it on the state level. A lot of our money goes to bridge projects and that, and those are huge. There's well over 1,000 bridges in the state of Wisconsin, and many of them are 50 to 100 years old and they need to be redone. So it's costly. It's also mentioned Nortec. It's a 10-county Northwest area project through Northwest Regional Planning. We had a meeting on that here last week. I attended that with Kathy LaRue. We talk about trail problems in that too. The biggest one right now is in Trigo, is the bypass. Where they got the roundabout coming off the highway, they did not make arrangements for the snowmobile and ATV trails to cross there. So there's a lot of discussion on that. We need to get that fixed because it's unsafe for the snowmobiles or especially for the groomer crossing that 4-lane highway there. So working on those kind of projects is what Nortec's doing. And also anything else that comes up with the snowmobile and ATV trails. So on being public comment, not allowed to have comments from this, but hopefully we can do that in the future is get on the agenda there. Request that we're on the agenda all the time. So if you do have questions, you can ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comments? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. Consider approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Anyone care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to accept minutes from last month's meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, approved. Any events to bring to our attention?
No events, applications were turned in this month.
Next item is Register of Deeds update. Rachel Thompson is not here today, and she has provided us with a one-page report. I guess we all have it. Any questions on it? Well, she's not here to answer, so I guess we'll have to wait till next time. We can move on to land records, county surveyor report. Anything there? No one's online. Again, we've got those reports. Like the ice conditions have helped with surveying some of the lake corners in the county, but other than that, I don't see anything that stands out. I guess with that, we will move on to item 12, the Sawyer County Forestry report.
Okay, for month of January, we did have 15 sales listed as active. We had 3 sales closed out. Timber sale value sold and uncut on file is just over 4.1 million. Revenue to start out the year was just over 264,000, which is a pretty decent start. Sale inspections are on target for activity. We did have 5 tracks turned in for review this month. Recon acres, we got to start on that for the year. Good Neighbor Authority, we did complete for year 25 contract with approximately 330 hours put in. Preparing the reimbursement request right now, and we're proceeding with the for year 26 contract agreement with the state right now. We're still in process with the paperwork there. Let's see. ATV snowmobile trails, we have been working on a few trail reroute issues. And we are planning our grant applications for this year's funding cycle right now. That deadline is April 15th for our grants. Other than that, I really don't have anything else to report right now. If there's any questions.
Any questions? Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you first.
I was curious, did you have a meeting with the user groups about the proposed trails up in Sealy this last month?
Not yet, no. It's on our schedule. I've been doing a lot of conversations, but we didn't get a formal meeting set just yet. I've got a meeting request from the individuals with the project. They want to come in and sit down and talk about it, but then we'll proceed from there, so. Yep, it's on my list here, but we just didn't quite get to it this month.
That was my question, just where things were at, because I've had some questions come in too.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next, we will have a report from the DNR. I think we've got someone or more than one here today. Whose turn to give the report? Oh, right there. Okay.
Right here. David Totus, TODUS. Attending the meeting for our vacant county forest liaison position today. So for the DNR report, I guess most notably this last month, we completed a phase of a road reconstruction project through, I believe it's the Lake of the Pines Conservation Easement down in Winter. DNR utilized a couple of our dump truck staff in conjunction with 2 private companies to haul, I believe we hauled about 300 yards of breaker rock to that location. Weren't able to complete the entire project because of the frozen conditions, we couldn't crack into the pile of surface material to grade the road out. But it is usable right now. We'll complete that after spring breakup sometime in June or July. This project was or is financially backed by grant funding that was secured by DNR Wildlife and Hayward. So that's about all I have for the DNR report.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Next up is the U.S. Forest Service report. We have Adam LaSalle here this morning.
Good morning, Adam LaSalle, it's LaSalle, standing in for Mike Martin, the district ranger. He had a conflict, so thank you for having us. I understand this is something that we haven't attended regularly or at all, or from what I understand. So we're going to turn that around, and you'll be seeing our shining faces more often. Just a recap of the first and second quarter for us. On our planning side, we just signed the Moose 2X project that covers north of the chip flowage all the way to like the Loretta Draper area up to Moose Lake. It's about roughly 22,500 acres of management opportunity for us. We're currently working through our West Zone Aspen project, targeting overmature aspen stands from the Washburn District, the Great Divide District, and the Park Falls District. So we haven't got quite, we're still doing somewhat data collection at that point, but we have 2 advertised sales right now currently, 2 more are in the queue, but we plan to have 8 for this fiscal year. That brings us in and around 13 million board feet for a district target. Ops are favorable for winter conditions. We have 7 active sales. Everybody's making hay when it's cold out there, so to speak. And we have 2 finishing up, closing out, and which is pretty important because those sales are located up kind of by the Pinocchio Range. And we have thicker, heavier soils up there. So we've had some hard times with lack of good snow conditions and freezing conditions. So good to see those are finishing up. The recreation world, snowmobile trails are all open. And I also am praying for good conditions as an avid snowmobiler. Ski trails are ready to go. They're groomed, packed, ready for users. And noticing not as much snow up in the northern part of our district and the Pinocchio trails. So those are being packed, and when we get it, we run up there and take care of them. But that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions here, folks? As far as you said, 13 million is the plan for the year.
Mm-hmm.
How does that compare to what you've done typically annually?
Well, we're kind of down. We've had staffing issues over the last few years, so this is the response to lower staffing levels. They've lowered our district quota, but we're ramping up in the next 2 to 3 years. This FY25, the next year, or excuse me, FY26, we're going to be at 15 and then working up to 18, and then slowly trying to get to that 21 million. That's where we have traditionally or historically kind of sat. So we're trying to get back up into that position, but.
As I think forest-wide, you've been about 120,
Yep.
something like that? Okay.
Yeah, the ask is to keep at that and more. So that 120 to 130 million is where the forest is striving to achieve. Yeah.
If I remember right, the allowable sale quantity is quite a bit more than what you've actually done, even in your best years.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
No, we're trying, and markets are what they are, and I should correct that. That's 13 million board feet or 13 million offered. What's sold, purchased, and sent down the road is a lot different. So,
okay.
so yeah, we're still working through challenging markets. Our hardwood pulp market is is kind of a fickle mistress, balsam fir, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Pine stick seems to be moving. Big saw timber seems to be moving when we have that, so.
And I guess last of all, just thinking about elk in the region here, elk habitat is probably an important part of what you do out there too, helping those animals, give them something to eat like young aspen.
Yeah, that's, well, that's part of the drive for that West Zone Aspen project is to clear up these over mature aspen stands, and it benefits wildlife as well. I know we're actively putting in big, large elk openings in a lot of our timber sales. I know Mr. Totus is working through some with us in GNA, and it's something that we're gaining more traction as we understand how we can do it in the confines of our rules, so to speak. But planning for it and definitely supporting it. Yep.
Very good. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the list, item 13, Town of Winter, request for assistance with temporary bridge.
Sure, I'll start with this. So I don't know the exact timing, but last year when bridge inspections were done, it was found, and the county contracts for those and works with the towns on their bridges. It was found that the Town of Winter Bridge over the Thornapple Grade was unsafe and, either needed to be limited or closed. And ultimately, the decision was made based on the condition of the bridge that it was going to be closed, which it has been. Because of the way the bridge program works, this bridge was not from the time it was scored before to the time to the score it has now. And I don't remember what the scoring is. It had not been scoring poor enough to be a part of the bridge program before. And now, the score is bad enough that it's shut down, but it's going to probably take up to 3 years for that bridge to be replaced to get funded through the bridge program. So that does create, obviously, an inconvenience for those that use that bridge. For us, it impacts our forestry sales because that's a block of county forest, and the alternate routes are significantly more. So the highway commissioner, John Pino, and our forest administrator, Greg Peterson, did meet with the Town of Winter and others a month ago, maybe more, to talk about the impact of the closure and look for solutions. And what has been discussed is the potential of putting in a temporary bridge until the new bridge can be constructed. So they've put together some numbers, and the estimated cost of the project, per the letter you have, is $140,000. I have had some discussions, just kind of spitballing if the county, they've asked the county for help, and how could we help? One potential option would be for the county to consider purchasing the bridge, which the actual cost of the bridge itself is more around the $85,000 mark. The remainder of that cost is the transportation to get it here from out east. I believe it's in Ohio, Pennsylvania, someplace out east, and then the cost to set the bridge in place. And so potentially one option to consider is purchasing the bridge, and then the town will be responsible for the remainder of the cost. The bridge will be owned in the county, so we anticipate that in the future there may be other needs for a temporary bridge for similar situations, or when there's other projects going on. As a source of funds, because it does impact our current and future forestry sales until the bridge is replaced, we did have a surplus of stumpage revenue from last year that goes into our general fund that could be earmarked to pay for the bridge, just as an option to put on the table. I did ask Greg just to maybe be prepared to make some comments on how that bridge impacts our sales. Do you want to?
Yeah, so it was hard to get like an actual number of potential impact on it, but our winter block is just over 43,000 acres. So it's our biggest block of county forest. And as stated in the letter, the Thornapple River Bridge pretty much cuts that block in half. We've got a snowmobile trail that accesses across that bridge that connects us into Rusk County. It doesn't cut us off for timber sales, but it makes it really difficult. We've got like a block of about 10,000 acres that's directly impacted that would lie just east of the bridge crossing. We've got 861 acres sold in that block, and we've got another 400 acres to establish in there. So just that little block of timber, that 10,000 acres, I mean, that's almost $800,000 worth of wood that's sitting on the forest. With timber markets, with the margins that our contractors are running right now, any more difficulties, and we're going to see, either at best a significant reduction in bid prices on this, or as we've been dealing with, we're just not going to be able to sell some of these sales. As mentioned before, the hardwood pulp market is terrible, and we've got a lot of hardwood pulp in this block. So any detriment like this for transportation is going to have a big impact on our timber sale program. We've had a really great working relationship with the town of Winter over the years. I mean, we rely on them completely for our access in there, and they've done a pretty great job of that. But this bridge is a big one for us.
So that bridge, once it's done there, we can put it back somewhere if we need to use it temporarily somewhere else.
That's the thought, at least. I mean, as far as we knew this was happening in the fall, that the bridge was not in good shape. And then the decision was that it needed to be closed. So it's progressed where the closure looks like it's going to be multiple years. So this has kind of evolved as a potential need, and the town would like to have a temporary bridge, and they've asked the county for some assistance in that regard. And that's kind of where we landed, is participating in the acquisition. That way it's available for future needs.
So then we just have a weight limit on that bridge, and that bridge is set for a certain weight limit and everything.
The temporary bridge?
Temporary
Yes.
bridge,
Yep.
okay.
But it would be able to handle logging truck
Okay.
traffic.
So we just need a recommendation to purchase this bridge and move it on the county board for next.
Yeah, we do have it on Public Works tonight.
Oh, it's on Public Works tonight?
Yep,
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
But
So
I
we can
wanted to
go
have
through
it here because probably if there's a justification on the county end, it's the impact on, to me at least. I mean, that is a recreation area as well, so people do use it. Do I have the right, roughly that's for the Thorn Apple Grade Bridge?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, just the other rec stuff, I mean, the bird hunting tourism dollar that we get in that block, that's going to be impacted and all that. So it's a heavily used block for forest rec, not our typical trails, but the hunting public, and it's in just our own operations down there. It's like to come around on some of this, it's an extra 30-mile swing to get back to where you need to be. So it's going to be a pain.
And if I understood right, 3 years might be an optimistic time frame for replacing. In talking to John Sorolski, he was,
Yeah.
it sounded like more 3 to 5.
Yeah, I think 3 is probably best case scenario. I've never really been a part of one of these, but it seems like 5 is kind of the safe bet from everything that we've heard.
Steve, I was wondering, what is the span of that river? How big of a bridge is this? And you say that we might be able to use it someplace else. Wouldn't it be site specific, so that could it really be used again on another bridge area?
It's a temporary.
Yeah, obviously it would need to be within the span of the bridge. Generally, this isn't obviously the longest span we have, but I mean, definitely over any other creek or small tributary, it would work in future situations.
Well, if we had it, there might even be a potential for loaning it out to adjacent counties
Right.
to use on their county forests. So for a fee.
It's a 14-foot wide by 60 feet long.
So Public Works is gonna be the one to address this tonight, Randy, right?
Yeah, I mean, that, if this committee wants to make a motion, that would,
We can still make a motion here.
yes,
too?
you can still. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we use some of the funding from last year's stumpage to purchase the bridge. To, put in temporarily over to Thornapple.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Very good. Next, we have zoning and conservation department.
Yeah, we'll start out with the item A. There's for the wildlife damage claims. Previously, Seth Zessiger was kind of in charge of this program. Now, this program is a cost share kind of pass through grant that we receive. So we contract out with APHIS to basically take on the wildlife damage program here in Sawyer County. Seth has now moved up the ladder, and Josh Spangler, who is also present here today, is the now wildlife specialist for APHIS. And I will kind of turn it over to Josh to explain the forms that you have in front of you here for discussion action items for the wildlife damage. For Seth.
Morning. Seth Zessiger with Wildlife Services, and as Jay said, that we are contracted out through the county to administer the wildlife damage abatement and claims program on the county's behalf. And primary item for consideration today is the 2024 wildlife damage claims. I believe they were in the agenda, so just brought them for the committee's review. My recommendation would be to approve them as presented, but certainly happy to answer any questions that the committee might have pertaining to the claims or the damage program as a whole.
For myself, I'm not familiar with this. I don't have any history to go by other than how it compares to last year's. It looks like about $6 an acre is what it boils down to if you take the amount awarded divided by acreage. It seems to be consistent year over year in the big picture. Does it vary much from year to year, long term?
Yeah, it can. So you're correct. Last year's total damage claim is very similar to what this year's ended up being. Deer damage is very consistent. Bear damage rose slightly. Goose damage, we didn't have any goose damage claims. It's not a shock that bear damage went up slightly in 2024 just because 2023 had such a huge acorn crop that it really backed them off of the cornfields quite a bit. We have been seeing a consistent downwards trend ever since 2019. We implemented a program that very aggressively targeted bear damage in Sawyer County. That was the main concern from the producers that we worked with. And so, 2020, I think we're seeing peak damage, peak bear captures. I don't want to plant the victory flag just yet, but we have been seeing a pretty consistent downward trajectory in both, primarily in the amount of bear damage that producers have been receiving. So hopefully that continues. We've got our program pretty well dialed in to be proactive reducing these bear damages.
So are there things farmers can do to keep the bear away? Is that?
So for bear damage in particular, the primary method of abatement is trapping and relocating. So the farmers obviously can't do that, don't have the capacity or the time to do that themselves. They would notify us that we've got bear damage occurring, or ideally proactive. Bear damage, depending on the maturity of the corn, in a typical year, August 1st is when the bears are going to start getting into the fields. And if we can get out in front of them, get the traps out there before the damage really takes off, we can do a very good job at reducing those damages. Trapping and relocating can be supplemented with crop damage tags for bear if we're just not able to keep quite the lid on it that we would like to with trapping and relocating. But the last several years, our bear capture And Sawyer County has probably been right around that 140, 150 bears in the months of August and halfway through September. Shooting permits, they might supplement that with another 20 bear that are harvested.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
We just gotta make a motion.
To accept, yeah.
The funding for this, is this all from the county then, or is?
So it's a state program that the counties can opt to participate in, which Sawyer County obviously has done. And they've contracted out with us to administer the program on their behalf. But all this funding ultimately comes from the state. The county will receive a bill from us for our services, but then Jay will submit a reimbursement request to the state, which the state will then pay. It's like a grant program essentially. And these claims in particular that we're reviewing today, that's nothing that the county has to do other than review and approve them. And then they get sent to the state for direct payment to the farmer.
Okay, thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the assessments for the crop damage.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And the
Thank
final
you.
thing would be just to introduce Josh. He's going to be assuming the damage program administration for Sawyer County and Russ counties from here on out.
Thank you.
Good to meet everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jay.
Yeah, moving on to the Conservation Department update. Conservation staff has been updating the NR 135 files for non-metallic mining. We did complete 2 shoreline protection cost share design projects. The tree sale is still up and running, and there are still plenty of trees for purchase that can be found on the Sawyer County website. The poster and speaking contest has concluded. We didn't have any speakers this year, but we did have 25 posters. 2 of them will be heading to the state competition. Those winning posters can be viewed in the long hallway outside the courtroom there. We have 3 dam inspections that are due this year, and we'll be contracting with the engineer companies to perform these dam inspections.
Thank you, Jay. Next item, board appointed committee updates. Anything there? Guess not. Any correspondence, reports from conferences and meetings?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we did not include the Lake District on today's agenda because essentially that's been turned over to the board. But we had really good participation, I think, from the board on the webinar that the Counties Association did. We had a lot of questions that we submitted, but still offers open if you have any questions or things you want us to look at or prepare information for the board meeting. Please let us know so we can do that.
Did anybody receive this packet? They did. Yeah, it was submitted by one of the people involved in the Lake District who does not want to be in the Lake District. It has a lot of information on the history. They did a lot of investigative work here, and there's it's suggested that Round Lake has some ownership in it. But if we can make copies for the full board, that would be great.
Is that from Tom Murray?
Yeah.
That was sent to everybody and
Everybody has
also I have it and it's gonna be on the website.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Okay, anything else on that? Future agenda items? I guess we are adjourned. Thank you all.